How do you get a local homeowner in your local market to feel like I should hire you as my real estate agent? After working with over 260 real estate agents, personally one-on-one, and really helping them dial in their online marketing for listing appointment generation in the last 4 years, I've come to realize that most people tend to talk about things like CRMs, websites, different ways, different widgets really to set up the website, and ultimately how can you automate or sort of like generalize the overall process of listing appointment generation. But what most real estate agents never think about is the emotional state of the market. So what this results into is that right now, especially in 2022, a lot of real estate agents are doing marketing that never really clicks with the marketplace. And that click has everything to do with the emotional state of the market. So if you ever heard the statement, people buy with emotions and justify with logic, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So obviously I've been seeing this concept kind of being tossed around in different places since I've been in an online marketing space for the last half a decade. But really what I want to talk about in this post is how do you apply this specifically into your real estate agent marketing? How to get homeowners really click with your marketing, because that's one of the biggest problems in real estate marketing right now. Most of it is extremely boring. It's automated articles, automated Canva posts. Well, it's really like very general like list of homes or something like this. So in this video, you're gonna learn exactly how to make your marketing more juicier, how to really make it pop in the homeowner's eyes, and really get them to desire your service specifically as opposed to anybody else's. Now, before we talk about practical examples, which we'll do here in a second, we need to talk about the way human motivations work. So humans have two motivations. They have either moving towards something, moving towards pleasure, or moving away from something, moving away from pain. And ultimately, both of these things, what they're trying to achieve is that they try to make us feel whole. They try to make us feel complete when it comes down to our emotional state. Now, with a homeowner, they're trying to find a new house or they're trying to sell their current house. It's not a question that they really just try to sell a house or try to buy a house. They're trying to achieve a certain emotional feeling, or they're trying to either move away from something or they're usually trying to move towards something. Really, that selling process or that buying process is just a symbolic representation of achieving that emotional or practical need. So the interesting thing about this though is that the emotions themselves, the feelings the homeowners are experiencing, they're actually not logical. The homeowner is not gonna be like, oh, I really desire to sell my house, or I really desire to buy a house, even though that may sometimes be the case. Most of the times, they're actually going to be irrational. And because of this reason, as a real estate agent, it's extremely important that you're not just talking about the surface level things, but really going deeper and addressing the exact emotional state of the marketplace. So for example, let's say you're trying to sell houses in New York luxury market. So you're trying to achieve a situation for yourself where homeowners with 5 million, 10 million, 30 million dollar houses really reach out to you and ask you for your help. So if you want that situation for yourself, you need to understand that the worst thing you can do is just start talking about the houses, start talking about the apartments, and just start talking about the woods and everything else, the floors. Just be very excited about that. The reason being is because the homeowners in that market, they don't actually want only the house. They want the status that comes with that house. They want the exclusivity, they want the access to different people, different places, and they really want the environment of New York when it comes down to raising their status. So whenever it comes down to real estate marketing, now instead of being somebody who just talks about the apartments and just being very excited about small details, talk about how that homeowner can raise their status. How can they achieve exclusivity with that property? And ultimately, that's going to apply to both sides, right? If you're trying to market the buyers, you need to market obviously the local area. You need to market obviously the exclusivity of the area, the prestige of the area. But if you're trying to market the seller, you probably need to also position yourself in a similar way. Position yourself as somebody who is high in status. Position yourself as somebody who is exclusive exclusive. You only work with particular clients. Position yourself as somebody who's really sharp, on top of their game when it comes down to your clothing, comes down to your appearance, comes down to your vocality, and all the way back really to how you market yourself. Look at your camera, look at your audio, look at the way you kind of present the images, present the videos about yourself, but also about the properties, and really try to make those feel like top of the world, top 1% of the world, and really exclusive and prestige feeling like way. So like we discussed, the apartment itself, the house itself, it's really just a symbolic representation of what the homeowner really wants to achieve. Now, chances are you're not a luxury real estate agent in New York. You're not selling 10 million, 30 million houses. You're in a regular average marketplace where people are not necessarily as status oriented as in some of those markets they could be. Now, in those markets, the primary needs, the primary things you need to communicate are probably not going to be about exclusivity. The regular person who goes to regular work, they have kids, they have family, they're not thinking about every day about how they can raise their status. Although that's the case, most people do want to raise their status, but they're just not as focused on that as somebody at that level. So for regular home seller niche, the primary core emotions are going to be either convenience or access. Now, with convenience, that basically means that for a regular homeowner, they may need to have a bigger house. They maybe have a new kid coming in. They maybe need to have just more space for working. Or as an example, they have a deteriorating home, so it's kind of old and their income has risen up, so they want to have a better, nicer house so they can enjoy their lives a bit more. Or another example is maybe empty nesters. Maybe they have a large house, but now, they're a kid, they're already adult, so they kind of need to just get rid of that extra space and just put the resources somewhere else by having a smaller house. Now, with access, that basically means having access to nicer things. As an example, they may want to have access to a nicer neighborhood. Maybe their current neighborhood is not like exactly what they're looking for. Maybe it's kind of boring. Maybe it's not those similar people that they want to be around with. Another example is, as an example, with access, maybe somebody wants access to better schools. It's very, very common, whenever people, try to buy a house, oftentimes they want to have the school nearby as well. So how does this tie back into your marketing? How does this tie back into your emails? How does this tie back to your social media posts? How does this tie back into your mailers, the conversations you're having with the home sellers in general? Well, for most real estate agents, whenever they do their marketing, they're bragging about how great real estate agent they are, how many houses they've sold, how many years they've been in the business, or just in general talking about market statistics or the houses themselves. What you want to do instead is you want to talk about these two core emotions people are really desiring and are really wanting as the end result of their process. So instead of talking about selling their house, talk about the convenience layer, talk about the access layer. So as far as your marketing goes, you must infuse every ounce of your marketing with those two things, with convenience and the access. And if you're obviously in the luxury niche, you want to talk about the status layer as well. So how do you do this? You do this through opening paragraphs, stories, examples, samples, thought-provoking narratives related to the homes in the context of access and convenience. Show them what it would feel like to have that convenience and access, then pull it down to the low and contrast it with not having it. You really meet them where they are, narrate their most innermost thoughts back to them. You want to explain to them what experience they're having right now and what experience they could have in the future once those things are achieved. So implement this on your social media posts, emails, videos, mailers. So let me give you an example on this. To tap into the core emotion of access to a better neighborhood, you could provide a sample for homeowners about the best neighborhoods for families with young children in your local market. This in turn magnifies their emotional need to get that access, and now you have an opening to allow them to justify working with you to sell their home and move so they can feel whole. So people buy with emotions and justify with logic. This is what that means. Another example of an opening paragraph for an email or social media post could be something like, one of the greatest joys in life is to finally move into a new home that just feels perfect. A thriving neighborhood, calming views out of the window, and that thing you've always secretly wanted in your home. Sadly, most people let years go by and settle to live in a home that doesn't spark excitement in them, without realizing how they could have upgraded to that perfect home for an extra cost that's just actually easily affordable. So we're tapping into the feeling of access to a better home. It's not enough to do this once. You really need to infuse people many times over and over again with this, so they really start to feel like you understand really what they want and need really better than they do understand themselves. So once this process happens over and over again, the homeowners really start to feel like you understand them better than they understand themselves. And because of that reason, you slowly but surely start to become the number one choice for a real estate agent for them. And eventually, when the time is right, they reach out to you and ask you for a listing appointment. So I hope you found this perspective useful. Now, what I've also done is I've created a full tutorial with 4 different content types where you can actually apply these directly to your social media right now today. So if you'd like to watch that video, you can click on this link. It will be in the middle of this video. Click on that and watch that video. It's 100% free, and those are going to be the things you can implement right now today and potentially even get your first listing appointment this week.